the heart of the game core idea and genre. Every epic game story starts with a seed, a core idea that sparks the imagination. This could be a simple concept, like what if humanity had to leave Earth and find a new home? Or a more complex one, like what if emotions were a tangible resource? This core idea will be the foundation upon which your entire story is built. Once you have your core idea, you need to choose a genre that best suits it. Is your game a sprawling fantasy RPG, a tense sci-fi thriller, or a light-hearted puzzle adventure? The genre you choose will dictate the tone, themes, and even the mechanics of your game. For example, a fantasy RPG might involve magic systems and mythical creatures, while a sci-fi thriller could explore themes of artificial intelligence and corporate espionage. The core idea and genre are the fundamental building blocks of your game's story. They provide the framework upon which you will build your world, characters, and plot. Take your time to brainstorm different ideas and genres, and don't be afraid to experiment until you find the perfect combination that resonates with you. Remember, the most important thing is to choose a core idea and genre that you are passionate about. Your enthusiasm will shine through in your writing and create a more engaging and immersive experience for your players. Crafting a world geography, history, and culture. With your core idea and genre established, it's time to build the world in which your story will unfold. This is where you let your imagination run wild, crafting continents, oceans, and everything in between. Think about the environment. Is it a lush forest world, a desolate wasteland, or a futuristic cyberpunk city? History is just as important as geography in shaping your world. What are the major historical events that have shaped this world and its inhabitants? Were there ancient wars, natural disasters, or technological advancements that have left their mark? A rich history will make your world feel more believable and lived in, with its own unique stories waiting to be uncovered. Finally, no world is complete without its cultures. What are the customs, beliefs, and values of the people who inhabit your world? Do they live in harmony with nature? Or are they driven by technology and progress? Creating diverse and believable cultures will breathe life into your world and make it feel like a real place. Remember, world building is an ongoing process. Don't be afraid to add details, make changes, and refine your vision as you go. The more thought and care you put into crafting your world, the more immersive and unforgettable your game story will be. The flow of time, a timeline of events. A timeline of major events is crucial for establishing the context of your game's story. It provides a chronological framework for understanding the events that have shaped the world and the characters who inhabit it. Start by outlining the key historical events, such as the founding of empires, major wars, or natural disasters. Next, consider how these events have influenced the present-day world of your game. Have they led to technological advancements, political unrest, or social changes? For example, a devastating war centuries ago could have resulted in the rise of a powerful empire, the creation of magical artifacts, or the development of advanced weaponry. Don't be afraid to be detailed in your timeline. Include specific dates, names of key figures, and descriptions of significant events. This will not only help you keep track of your world's history, but also provide a wealth of inspiration for quests, dialogue, and environmental storytelling. Remember, your timeline is a living document. As you develop your story and characters, you may discover new events that need to be added or existing events that need to be adjusted. Embrace the flexibility of the timeline and allow it to evolve alongside your game's narrative. Setting the stage introduction and rising action. The introduction of your game story is crucial for grabbing the player's attention and setting the stage for the adventure to come. Introduce the game's world, the protagonist, and the central conflict. This can be achieved through an engaging opening cutscene, environmental storytelling, or even a simple conversation between characters. The rising action is where you build tension and raise the stakes. Introduce new challenges, allies, and enemies as the protagonist gets closer to confronting the central conflict. This is also a good time to reveal more about the game's world, its history, and the motivations of its characters. Think of the rising action as a series of escalating events that push the protagonist further down the path of their journey. Each event should build upon the last, increasing the tension and leaving the player eager to discover what happens next. Remember, a strong introduction and rising action are essential for hooking the player and keeping them invested in the story. Take your time to craft these early sections carefully, ensuring they are engaging, informative, and set the stage for an epic adventure. Section 5. The stakes rise, climax and falling action. The climax is the pinnacle of your game's story, the moment of truth where the protagonist confronts the central conflict head-on. This is where all the tension and build-up of the rising action come to a head in a satisfying and memorable way. The climax should test the protagonist's skills, resolve, and force them to make difficult choices. Following the climax is the falling action, where the dust settles and the consequences of the protagonist's actions become clear. Loose ends are tied up, relationships are tested, and the world begins to adjust to the new status quo. This is also a good time to provide closure for supporting characters and offer hints about the future of the game's world. The falling action should feel like a natural progression from the climax, providing a sense of resolution while still leaving the player with a lasting impression. It's an opportunity to explore the emotional impact of the protagonist's journey and the ripple effects of their actions. Remember, the climax and falling action are crucial for delivering a satisfying and memorable conclusion to your game's story. Make sure these sections are emotionally resonant, visually spectacular, and leave the player feeling like they've been on an unforgettable journey. Section 6. A satisfying conclusion, resolution, and impact. The resolution is the final act of your game's story, where all the loose ends are tied up and the protagonist's journey comes to an end. This doesn't necessarily mean a happy ending, but it should provide a sense of closure and leave the player feeling satisfied with the outcome. Consider the long-term impact of the protagonist's actions. How has the world changed as a result of their journey? What lessons have been learned and what new challenges lie ahead? The resolution is your opportunity to reflect on the themes and messages of your story and leave the player with something to think about. A powerful ending can elevate a good game to an unforgettable experience. It's the last thing the player will remember, so make it count. Leave them with a sense of wonder, a feeling of accomplishment, or even a lingering question that stays with them long after the credits roll. Remember, the resolution is not the end of your game's world, but rather the beginning of a new chapter. Leave the door open for future stories, sequels, or even just the imagination of the player to fill in the blanks. Section 7. Heroes and villains, protagonist and antagonist. No story is complete without compelling characters, and at the heart of every great game story lies the protagonist and antagonist. The protagonist is the player's avatar in the game world, the character through whom they experience the story and make choices that shape the narrative. The antagonist, on the other hand, is the force that opposes the protagonist, creating conflict and driving the story forward. A well-developed protagonist is relatable even if their circumstances are extraordinary. They have strengths and weaknesses, hopes and fears, and a clear motivation that drives their actions. Give your protagonist a unique personality, a backstory that informs their motivations, and a goal that keeps them moving forward. The antagonist should be more than just a one-dimensional villain. Give them their own motivations, beliefs, and even redeeming qualities. A well-written antagonist is a character that players will love to hate, someone whose actions, though reprehensible, are understandable given their own goals and perspective. Remember, the protagonist and antagonist are two sides of the same coin, locked in a conflict that drives the narrative. The more complex and nuanced their relationship, the more engaging the story will be for the player. Section 8. The supporting cast, bringing depth to the world. While the protagonist and antagonist take center stage, supporting characters are essential for fleshing out the game's world and adding depth and complexity to the narrative. These are the allies, enemies, mentors, and rivals that the protagonist encounters on their journey, each with their own motivations, personalities, and roles to play. Supporting characters can provide valuable assistance to the protagonist, offer crucial information, or even betray them at a critical moment. They can also be used to explore different facets of the game's world, its cultures, and its history. Don't be afraid to give your supporting characters their own unique quirks, flaws, and complexities. Make them feel like real people with their own lives and motivations, even if their role in the story is relatively small. Remember, a rich cast of supporting characters can breathe life into your game's world and make it feel more believable and immersive. Take the time to develop these characters and give them meaningful roles to play in the protagonist's journey. Section 9. Goals and conflicts. Driving the narrative forward. Every story needs a driving force, and in games that force comes from the goals of the characters and the conflicts they face in pursuit of those goals. The protagonist's main goal is the overarching objective that motivates them throughout the story, while smaller goals can be tied to specific quests, missions, or interactions with other characters. Conflicts can arise from various sources, such as opposing ideologies, personal vendettas, or even competition for resources. These conflicts create challenges for the protagonist to overcome, forcing them to make difficult choices and deal with the consequences of their actions. Internal conflicts, such as moral dilemmas or personal struggles, can add an extra layer of depth to your characters and the story. These internal struggles can be just as compelling as external conflicts and can lead to moments of self-discovery and growth for the protagonist. Remember, goals and conflicts are the engines that drive your game's narrative. Make sure your characters have clear objectives and face meaningful challenges on their journey, and your story will be all the more engaging for it. Section 10. Player agency and twists engaging the audience. One of the unique aspects of storytelling in games is the ability to give players agency in how the narrative unfolds. Player choices, whether big or small, should have meaningful consequences that shape the story and the game world. This can range from simple dialogue options to branching storylines that lead to drastically different outcomes. Plot twists, when used effectively, can keep players on the edge of their seats and subvert expectations in exciting ways. However, it's important to ensure that twists feel natural and earned, rather than forced or nonsensical. A well-executed plot twist can leave a lasting impact on the player, making them question everything they thought they knew about the game's world and characters. To ensure player choices feel meaningful, offer them options that align with different play styles or moral compasses. Allow players to role-play as a righteous hero, a cunning rogue, or anything in between. Their choices should shape not only the story's outcome, but also the protagonist's personality and reputation within the game world. Remember, player agency and well-placed plot twists are powerful tools for crafting engaging and unpredictable narratives. Embrace these elements to create a truly interactive and memorable gaming experience. Section 11. Voice and tone. Shaping the narrative experience. The voice and tone of your game's narrative are crucial for establishing the overall mood and atmosphere of the experience. Voice refers to the style of language used in the dialogue and narration, while tone encompasses the emotional undertones and overall feeling conveyed by the story. Consider the genre of your game and the target audience when determining the appropriate voice and tone. A light-hearted adventure game might employ humorous dialogue and a whimsical tone, while a gritty crime thriller would require a more serious and suspenseful approach. Consistency is key when it comes to voice and tone. Ensure that the language used by characters, the descriptions in the environment, and the overall presentation of the story all contribute to the desired atmosphere. A sudden shift in tone can be jarring for the player and detract from the overall experience. Remember, the voice and tone of your narrative are powerful tools for shaping the player's emotional journey. Use them carefully and consistently to create a truly immersive and unforgettable gaming experience.